Hello, I'm Commissioner Ben Hublin with the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Today we'll be having a conversation that I wish we didn't need to have. We will be talking about the mental health impact of receiving violent threats and harassment, an experience that far too many election officials have faced in the aftermath of the 2020 election. I appreciate that Harold Love has taken time to join us today. Harold has over 25 years of law enforcement experience serving with the Michigan State Police. He currently works in his private practice in Southfield, Michigan as a licensed professional counselor, where he provides behavioral health services for public safety professionals, including individual therapy, behavioral health education, crisis intervention, and critical incident stress management. Thank you for speaking with me today about this very important topic.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. To kick things off, Harold, would you please share a little bit about your background, anything I missed there, and how your law enforcement career has helped inform your work as a licensed professional counselor?
Okay, well, born and raised in the city of Detroit. I served 25 years with the Michigan State Police, worked in different capacities all over southern lower Michigan, from the rank of trooper to captain. And I learned early in my career the benefit and what I believe is the absolute necessity for behavioral health services in a public safety professional after going through a few critical incidents as a young trooper working on the west side of the state in Niles, Michigan. Had a couple of really, horrific incidents, and with the help of our departmental psychologists, I was able to move beyond those things and go on and have a good, fulfilling 25-year career. But as I grew through the ranks and mentoring younger troopers and other officers, and also just dealing with people in the community, I realized how underserviced we are in the area of behavioral health services. And what I mean by that is, competent mental health clinicians who understand the public safety culture. And that's what I mean by competence, have a level of competence within that culture where they can effectively serve that community, as well as different communities that have worked in the same thing. So I decided in 2011, I'll go back to grad school, got my grad degree in mental health counseling, got licensed, got some extra training and certification in psychological testing and assessment and critical incident stress management. So I became an advocate of behavioral health services early on through those personal experiences. And then also, again, just coaching and mentoring and helping people, whether it was young people or even, middle-aged people that I dealt with, in the capacity of a law enforcement officer.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that. Since the 2020 elections, reports of threats and harassment of election officials have increased across the country, unfortunately. And, this is a new source of stress and trauma for many election officials. Can you describe some of the impacts threats of violence can have on an individual's mental health and well-being?
Yes, it can have a hugely negative impact. It can cause us to be hypervigilant. This is something we deal with in law enforcement all the time, where we get to a place where we see most things as potentially life-threatening or dangerous. So we, a lot of times find ourselves in this state of hypervigilance, not only on the job, but just in our daily lives. And sometimes that can really have a negative impact on the quality of life, on our interactions with other people, on our personal relationships, even our overall wellness. If you can imagine having intrusive thoughts, that either you or your loved ones are going to be harmed or even killed because of attacks that were made on you or because of something that you experienced, or even dealing with negative moods and emotional instability, things like that. And ultimately, these things can lead to more chronic mental health conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic anxiety or depression, you name it. And a lot of times those things happen without us even being aware that they're happening to us.
You mentioned, some of these things that can be the results of these threats and harassment, but what are some of the signs that election officials should be aware of that they may need to see a counselor or a mental health professional? What are the first steps that someone should take if they believe they need to seek help?
Yeah. So our bodies are designed to protect us. You see a dog coming at you, you get that uneasy feeling in your stomach and you run for a tree or run for a car to jump on or whatever. And it works, also for, perceived threats when a threat may not even be there. So when I talked about hypervigilance earlier, different things trigger, that fear where you feel like something is about to happen. And if you experience a critical incident or some type of traumatic stress incident, threats, a horrific crash, any kind of horrific incident or anything like that, there are certain things that can trigger those same feelings that you had when that incident first happened. So for election officials, for instance, the time of year, come election time, we're getting close to elections, and all of a sudden you start remembering some of the things or the threats that were made to you or your family in the previous election cycle. So you start experiencing, different even physical things like anxiety, where you're having pain in your body, pressure in your chest, headaches and things like that. Mood swings, again, where I mentioned earlier, sometimes we don't know these things are happening to us. Well, those people who are around us, whether it's colleagues or our loved ones, will sometimes, indicate to us that, hey, listen, something's wrong. You're not yourself. You're having emotional outbursts. You just don't seem to be as happy as you were. You don't seem to be as engaged as you were. Sometimes we have a loss in appetite, things like that. We have a significant weight loss or weight gain, all different things that are out of the norm for us. And when those things are brought to our attention, whether it be through someone else or our own, self assessment, if you will, then, that's the time to realize, okay, there's something going on. There's something wrong, and I can't put my finger on it. So I need to ask for professional help.
And along those lines, what are those first steps someone should take if they believe they need to seek help?
Yeah, I would first, talk with your primary care physician. If you notice now, when you do your first check-in and they ask you about, your mental health, are you experiencing depression, loneliness, anything like that? They want to know these things. And, when we talk about the coordinated healthcare that a lot of insurance agencies are requiring or even implementing in their services for their subscribers, that is something that they're ready to deal with and refer you to an appropriate mental health professional who can help you. And it's not always a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Sometimes it's a social worker, a licensed professional counselor, any licensed mental health clinician who can help you kind of peel back, some of the things that you're dealing with and help you figure out, okay, why am I having challenges in this area of my life? And what are some things that I can do to start mitigating some of the challenges I'm having?
It's really helpful. Can you describe how you assist individuals with critical incident stress management, and in your work with law enforcement officials, for example, how do you help individuals manage these situations while continuing to work in a potentially high stress environment?
Okay, so there are different types of critical incidents, and a critical incident is defined as basically any type of a situation or incident that overwhelm an individual's or a group's ability to cope. When you think of police officers, for instance, day in and day out, we see things that most of the public don't even know happens out there. They don't know those things exist. You don't have to work in a violent, densely populated metropolitan city to experience critical incidents, different types of death, domestic violence, child abuse, horrific car crashes, all those sorts of things. And when those things happen, typically what we do is we have what's called a critical incident stress debriefing, where we bring in those individuals who were directly or even sometimes remotely involved, such as a dispatcher in that critical incident. And we bring them together to what we call communalize the incident. In other words, to have a discussion, a directed discussion on the incident, how things rolled out, what each individual did, how it's affected them, and things like that. So we communalize the experience so that everybody understands that whatever they're going through is their normal action to an abnormal situation. A lot of times, if that is not done, then people, when they start experiencing some of these symptoms that I talked about, emotional outbursts and changes and things like that, then we think, okay, something's wrong with me, I'm broken. Well, no, that's your normal response to this abnormal incident. Okay, so that's the first step. And then from there, educate them. Let them know what are some things that they can expect, some of the symptoms, over the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, next few months. that you may not be sleeping well, that you may have disturbing thoughts or flashbacks and things like that. So that when those things come, or if they come, they realize, okay, this is normal and I should expect to go through these things. Okay. I like to use the analogy of a physical injury. Okay. A lot of times when we see these or go through these traumatic incidents, it's like an emotional injury. You know, so a physical injury, you're going to feel pain. There's probably some residual pain you're going to feel from it. And it's going to take some time to heal before you're fully functional again. Same as when we sustain these emotional injuries, where it's a critical or traumatic incident, whether it's a threat that make you feel fear for your life. Again, an emotional injury that's going to take some time to heal. All right. And when we can acknowledge that and, okay, I'm not supposed to be okay right now, or it's okay that I'm not okay right now. Let me do the things that I know I need to do to get better. I need to seek some professional help to help me understand why I'm feeling the things that I'm feeling. I need to realize and understand that the reason I got sweaty when I heard that song, because it triggered the same feelings I had when that incident happened a year ago, that sort of thing. So when, again, you know, when we feel those things, that's when you know it's time to get some help. And I may have lost your question there, but hopefully I answered.
I think you hit on it. You know, I mean, I think part of that, you know, I think the second part of it was just like how you help individuals manage these situations where they can work in the high stress environment.
Yes, so a little more on that. You know, the follow-up from that critical incident debriefing is when a person is still having challenges coping with, you know, the emotions and the things that they're going through. Then we move to a one-on-one individual therapy session where we help them to re-engage in life. A lot of times, you know, when we have these types of incidents, it causes us to disengage from our normal life, our normal activities, our normal interactions with people, our normal daily things that we do, daily tasks and routines. And if I can help a person just re-engage in those things and they realize, okay, this didn't hurt me as bad as I thought it did. This is not going to linger as long as I thought it would. And that's typically a key. We call it emotional survival, getting re-engaged in those relationships, those activities, those things that you know are fulfilling to you and are going to make you feel good.
That's very useful. Are there any, can you recommend any resources that might be helpful to local election officials as they work in this new and evolving threat landscape?
Yes. So one of my go-to organizations is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, and it's NAMI.org. And on NAMI, there are videos, there are additional resources or additional websites that may address a particular type of mental challenge, emotional challenge, or mental illness that a person may be dealing with. And even through NAMI, you can go to oktotalk.org, which is OK, the number 2, and then the word talk.org. Also some very helpful information on there. It talks about symptoms and signs to watch out for, talks about what you should do if you experience some of these symptoms and signs. Also, you have the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which has been around for a very long time. That's 800-273-TALK or 8255. And again, these resources you can get to from that original website, the NAMI.org. And then your local emergency room. You know, they always have a crisis intervention person or someone to deal with mental illness, you know, and within that system that can assess you and make sure that you're okay, or if you're not okay, can get you the immediate help that will help you get to a place where you are okay. Also, your health insurance provider. So each health insurance company has a list of providers that have been credentialed with them to provide these mental health services, and that serves as a referral system for you. And then your primary care physician. Again, I always go back to the primary care physician because they're in a network of people, a network of professionals, healthcare professionals, whom they can refer you to for the right type of care and assistance, and they can coordinate that care with them also. You know, when medication is needed and things like that, you always want to start with your primary care physician, and if it needs to go beyond him or her, then they will make that referral for you.
Thank you for flagging those. And do you have any other advice for election officials who find themselves facing threats or harassment?
Absolutely. Everything starts with your local police department. Your local law enforcement agency, whether it's a local municipality or a sheriff's office that is serving your community, or the Michigan State Police. Some rural communities, the Michigan State Police is the first line police force that services that community. Everything starts there. And I would be proactive and develop those relationships with them, let them know who you are, where you live, and that sort of thing. So should you receive some type of a threat or something that gives you concern about your safety or the safety of your loved ones, then you've got that direct contact already. When things begin to fall apart or the stuff hits the fan, as we sometimes say, that's not the time to make the first call to your local law enforcement official. Make those contacts, develop those relationships so that when you need help is right there. And yeah, again, start locally. And if federal agencies or state agencies need to be involved, then that local agency will reach out and bring them in if necessary.
Well, Harold Love, thank you again for joining me today for this conversation. Again, I wish we didn't have it, but it is important and it's critical at this time. So I thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. You're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.